Okay. So today we'll be looking at the explanation of the sutras of Vibhudipada. Vibhudipada is about the perfections or the vibhutis or siddhis that the yogi accomplishes in his journey. The chapter starts off with the sutra related to dharana. Then comes dhyana, followed by samadhi. So these three have a chronology, I mean a particular order. For the samadhi to manifest or to arise, one has to cross the dharana, master dharana, then get into dhyana, master dhyana, and only then the person can go into samadhi. Getting it? So that is the order, that is the chronology. I'll just use a jam file so that you get a good understanding of what I'm trying to say. Where's my stylus? Yeah. What happened? It didn't start a jam file?
Ma'am, only you can see link,
One
but not
second.
showing screen.
You're not able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
It's loading now.
I think your Jamboard is loading.
Yeah. Let me know once you're able to see my screen. Huh?
Yes, ma'am, your Jamboard is live.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, see, we have seen all the 8 limbs, right? What were the 8 limbs? Just very quickly.
Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi.
Yeah. So yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara. These were discussed in the 2nd chapter, right? Sadhana Pada. Okay. We have seen that there is a very systematic progress from one limb of yoga to the next limb. So you see, Yama has given the yogi the sense of social discipline, like how to interact with the society, how to interact with others, what is the code of conduct. That is what Yama has introduced the yogi to. Niyama, it introduced the yogi to self-discipline, where we saw that Shaucha Santosha Tapaswadhyaya Ishwara Pranidhana, these are the 5 rules for self-discipline. Once the yogi has mastered Yama and Niyama, there is some kind of mental purification which improves the quality of the thoughts. So that state of mind with a superior quality of thought is obtained after practicing yamas and niyamas. Then sage Patanjali has put up asana as a 3rd practice. So in asana, sage Patanjali said, instead of giving the list of all kinds of asanas, he said that the asana has to be sthira sukha, right? So why is he emphasizing on these aspects is he doesn't want the yogi to get derailed with by accomplishing a lot of perfection in different kinds of asanas. He's emphasizing a posture which is suitable, which is conducive for the upcoming practices or the following practices, like the pranayama practice, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. All these practices need the person to sit through. The person must be able to sit in a steady position comfortably, peacefully. Having that as the goal, having that as the key aspect, he has put asana as thiram and sukham. When one is able to perfect this, when one is able to sit in asana in a particular meditative posture, any sitting posture where the head, neck, and spine are straight, that kind of posture will help the yogi to practice the breathing aspects which come in pranayama, the pratyahara which accrues or which manifests when the pranayama practices are perfected. That is when the person can withdraw the senses from the material objects of the world. Okay, so you see the chronology, it's so precise and specific, like one limb of yoga going into the next one. Only when there is a perfection of the previous limb can the next one be perfected. That is the way it is going. So all these aspects relate to the world around, and it relates very closely with the perceptible objects, which is the objects that we notice, the objects that we can sense, the objects that we can recognize. So these 5 limbs relate to the perceptible objects. Perceptible world. Okay. Now, when pratyahara is perfected, which means you are able to control your sense organs and bring your sense organs closer to your mind, and your mind is not allowed to wander, rather it is stable in a particular point, and your sense organs are pulled towards your mind and not uh, sent into the external world, or not allowed to wander in the external world. That is the essence of pratyahara. So your mind is totally under your control because you've got a beautiful control on your breath. Once you attain that control, once you achieve that control of breath, then you will be able to automatically pull your senses towards your mind, which is already in a very quiet and a calm state. Getting it? So these aspects are perceptible. What I mean by perceptible is quite noticeable. You are aware that these things are happening. I mean, you are aware that your mind is going through all these processes. It's going through some kind of change. Your body is going through some kind of change. Now, when you're doing these kind of breathing practices, the mind is calming down. You're aware of all these aspects, right? So things which you're able to notice, things which your mind is able to understand and be aware of, that is called as perceptible. So these 5 limbs are called as external. Why? Because you're able to notice. Perceptible aspects are called as bahiranga. Wait 1 second. Sorry. Okay. Bahir means external. Pardon me for my writing. I'm not able to use the stylus well today. Anga means limbs. Otherwise, also my writing is so horrible. Yeah. So Bahir Anga. Bahir means external. Anga means limbs. Okay. Why we call it as Bahir Anga? The aspect
Nipalika, class didn't start.
Yes, ma'am. Class is already started. Ma'am is just now left, means maybe she has network issue.
Okay.
My jam file got closed. Where are we? 1 second. I think I lost practice with this. It's been a while. Yeah. So, yeah, here I am. Bahiranga means external. Why do we call this as
Ma'am,
external?
start sharing, ma'am.
Ma'am, screen is not sharing.
Yeah, I'll share the screen. Recording is on. That's what I've noticed. Don't shock me and say that this thing is another pain. 1 second. I'm not able to. Yeah. Wait. You can see it now, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what I was trying to say is we call this as Bahiranga. Bahiranga means external limbs. Why do we call this as external? Because they are perceptible. Perceptible means the things which the mind can recognize. Whatever is happening because of these 5 limbs, the mind can very well cognize. Cognize is become aware, understand. Okay, that is why we call it as Bahiranga. Now, Antaranga, why do they call the other 3 limbs, which are Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, as Antaranga? Is because okay, the other limbs, Dharana, let me change the color of the pen. Okay, the 6th limb is, oh, this is too thick. Dharana. You are able to see and hear me, right? You are able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The 7th one is Dhyana. The 8th one is Samadhi. Okay. These are called as Antaranga. Antaranga means internal. Antar is internal. Anga means limbs. Okay, getting it? So what we have seen on the previous slide, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara. These are Bahiranga, external limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga. What are we talking about? We are talking about the limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. Okay. In Ashtanga Yoga, we have seen there are 8 limbs. Out of the 8 limbs, the first 5 are called as Bahiranga. Please remember this. This is important from an examination point of view. Bahiranga means external limbs. The commentary given is such that the aspects which are very cognizant, or the person becomes very well aware that there are these changes happening and I'm able to understand what is happening with myself, my mind, and all that. When all those perceptible aspects of the mind are kind of related, they are called as Bahiranga. And when the subtler aspects means the ones which are not readily cognizable or imperceptible, So the word that is used is imperceptible. Which is not noticeable. Getting it? So these are not quite obvious, like you can't clearly recognize. You have the understanding that there is something going on, but you cannot just explain the experiences. They are like that. And they have a very profound impact on how the mind functions and the mind behaves. So these cannot be explained, or these cannot be narrated like we can narrate the experiences of the other 5 limbs. Those limbs which have these kind of subtler aspects are called as internal limbs or antaranga of the Ashtanga Yoga. Is this aspect clear to everybody? This is very important. You need to understand the difference between Bahiranga and Antaranga.
Got it, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Clear.
Yeah. So now you understood that Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi are Antaranga. And what is said in one of the sutras, I will come to that sutra in a little while, but you understand this at this point, it is good. You will be easily able to understand when I'm talking about the sutra. So there is a sutra which says that the Tadapi Bahiranga Nirbijasya. Tadapi Bahiranga Nirbijasya means what? The states of Samadhi. We have seen that. One second. The stages or states of Samadhi are, we have seen Samprajnata. Okay, let me make it in a different way. 1 second. So we'll go with a progressive approach. So first, what did we see? See, think it starts from this level and goes all the way to the top. Yeah. When the yogi started with the first stage of the Antaranga, so he started with Dharana, then went on to master Dhyana. After the mastery of Dhyana, he went about the Samadhi. Then in Samadhi, the first stage of Samadhi we have seen was the Samprajnata Samadhi. And what was the first Samprajnata Samadhi stage?
Vitarka Samadhi.
Yeah. So Vitarka Samadhi, then it progressed to
Savicharana.
Abhichara.
then Savichara progressed to
Sa Asmita. Ananda.
Ananda.
you can also call it as Asmita Anugata, which means Asmita accompanied the Samadhi, which is accompanied by Asmita. Sorry, Ananda. Now it is not Asmita, right? Who was the one who said?
Ananda, ma'am.
It is Sa Ananda or Ananda Anugata. Okay. Sa Ananda or Ananda Anugata Samadhi. Okay. Then we saw that.
With
What is the next
Savitara.
one?
Asmita Anugata.
Asmita.
So Asmita or Asmita Anugata Samadhi. Both mean the same. Okay. Then from upon the mastery of Asmita, what is the next stage? Here is the point where one enters into Dharma Megha Samadhi. This is a new term. Don't get panicked. Dharma Megha. So dharma megha samadhi is the point where there is a full prajna. What is prajna?
Inside, ma'am.
Yeah, it is the inner illumination because of which there is a kind of insight which is the purest and the real, most real. Okay, that kind of intuitive wisdom is called as prajna. Okay, in dharma megha samadhi, one gets into that state of prajna, one has that prajna. And after dharma megha samadhi, when one ascends dharma megha samadhi, that is when one enters into
Nirvi Samadhi.
Nirbij.
bija.
Ma'am, can you explain the prajna again once?
Prajna. Prajna is the inner illumination, or you can imagine that when the mind has become purified, it is able to see and understand, cognize the reality of every aspect in the world. It can understand, cognize the truth of every aspect in the world. The mind has acquired that kind of power. That state of power is called as prajna. The English term for prajna is inner illumination or light. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So these stages we have seen don't come, we call it as stages because they are kind of following a particular chronology, right? Only after Savitarka, then comes Savichara, then Ananda, Asmita, then Dharmamegha, then Nirbija. It is not directly Nirbija, right? You're getting it? Are we going directly into Nirbija? No. We are traveling all these stages of Samadhi and only then entering Nirbija. So what the sutra related to Tadapi Bahirangam Nirbijasya, when we compare it with Nirbija Samadhi, all these other Samadhis become Bahiranga. Getting it? Okay. This is the one which becomes Antaranga. When you compare Nirbija with the other kinds of Samadhis, all these Samadhis become Bahiranga and Nirbija becomes the Antaranga. You have to be really careful while you're answering this question. When they are asking you a question related to Nirbija, for Nirbija, all the other Samadhis that you have learned become Bahiranga sadhanas. Okay, because they are all related to the seeded aspects, right? So when we start off with Savitarka, we know that we Shabdartha, all these Jnana, all these aspects we learned, right? Grahana, Grahitru, Grahyeshu, all these aspects did we learn? The Samapatti aspect. So all these aspects are seeded. One is volunteering to concentrate on that particular object and is immersed in that object where he is able to cognize certain things. He's basing it on something. Okay, here there is a support of some aspect of Prakriti. Okay, when the mind leaves that support of Prakriti, that is when it has entered the Dharmamegha Samadhi, and from Dharmamegha Samadhi, it is transitioning into Nirbija. So the moment it transitions from Dharmamegha into Nirbija, that is when it is getting into the complete seedless form. And that seedless form is called Nirbija Samadhi. That Nirbija Samadhi is the Antaranga, and all other Samadhis that we discussed here become Bahiranga for Nirbija. Did I make myself clear? Anybody needs more understanding or explanation of this?
Ma'am, is this Bahiranga and Antaranga? Now we are discussing what we are discussing with Savitarka, Savichara and all. Is it relating to this Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, or is it completely separate topic?
Those aspects are related to samadhi, which is the sabija samadhi. But in dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, what you see is one doesn't jump directly into samadhi. When they want to enter into samadhi, they have to step into the doors of dharana and dhyana. It's like this. You want to enter a house, you have to, for example, the house is in a gated community. So you have to first enter into the gate of the gated community, right? Entrance of the gated community.
Yes.
Then you have to enter into the gate of that house. Then you have to enter into the front door or the main door of that house to be able to get access to the house, isn't it? So just think of dharana, dhyana, and samadhi as these aspects. Like dharana, you can think of the entrance to the community. Dhyana is when you get access to the gate of that house. And samadhi is when you are able to really enter into the main door, the first entrance of the house. Okay, it is like that. It follows a particular order. Now, for the adepts who are very well versed with these three aspects, the sanyama, those people don't take a long time to enter into the state of samadhi. But for people who are beginners and just trying to learn about how to do these things, they take only after they master dharana can they experience dhyana. After they master dharana, dhyana, can they experience samadhi? For the person who has been practicing these three aspects, can enter into the state of samadhi without a great difficulty. Okay, within a few minutes, they enter into samadhi.
Which Samadhi, ma'am? The bija only or
Could be, it is again the samadhi is also divided. You see, we have different stages of samadhi, right? It depends on the practice of samadhi. Like if the person is doing the sadhana for a very long time, he might get into the dharma mega samadhi, or he might also get into nirbija state. Okay, but getting into dharma megha and achieving the level of prajna that I described here doesn't come easy. It comes only after a really, really, really long time and a really good effort. Only a few people can achieve this.
Can
Okay.
we say this Dharana, so at this Dharana stage, the person who mastered this Pratyahara and all, can we say that that person is at least near to the Savitarka, or like we can say any stage of Samadhi, like Sabija Samadhi? Is it compulsory that he enters into that Sabija Samadhi stage?
Yeah, he has to enter. Unless he enters into the Sabija state, he can't enter into the states of Samadhi. We have learned the definitions, the sutras related to different kinds of Samadhis, right, in chapter 1.
Yes, ma'am, Savitra. Yes, ma'am.
That is a proper order. So we understood that they will keep getting, the Shabda, Artha, and Jnana, these three aspects intermingle, right? We have understood that. When one lets go the Shabda and Artha and only the Shabda and Jnana and only the Artha part remains, that is when the person is in Nirvitarka. So we have seen every stage of Samadhi and understood it. And then we learned that the person progresses as he becomes good in the practice, as he masters it. Getting it? So now we'll start with the sutras. Okay. I will go to the 4 chapters of freedom and then we'll start off with the sutras. What do you say? Should I? This
Yes.
was to give you a basic understanding about the sutras in this Vibhuti-pada. See, the whole idea, the chapter is designed to help the yogi transcend from these dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, and what comes about when they perfect the samyama. When the samyama or the sanyama is perfected, what happens? There are different accomplishments or perfections that a yogi sees depending on the object of concentration. If he's concentrating on a particular part of the body, he'll be able to master something. If his object of concentration is sun, he'll be able to master something else. Similarly, if his object of concentration is the moon, he'll be able to master something else. It all depends on what is the object of concentration. Depending on that object of concentration, the yogi will be able to attain some kind of perfection. The whole chapter talks about these kind of perfections, like what will the yogi achieve when he does samyama on the sun, samyama on the moon, samyama on his body, on his navel, samyama on his throat region. Okay, these are the things which are explained in this chapter. So the basis, what is this? Okay. The basis for all of this is where is this? The basis for all of this is dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Once the person has learned to master the samyama aspect, he'll be able to understand the minutest detail of that aspect, be it any object. Where is the cursor? I'm not able to find the cursor now. Let me close this down. Something wrong with my system. Until now, are you clear with what I explained?
Yes, ma'am. Just try
Especially
stop presenting.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Clear, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Hey, give me 1 second. I don't know why I'm getting into all these stupid troubles. 1 second. The cursor is not active. Yeah. You able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, the first sutra of Vibhuti-pada talks about dharana. How did dharana come about? What was the last thing that we learned in chapter 2? If anybody can quickly do a recap of what we did in chapter 2. Does anybody remember?
Ma'am, dharana sucha yogyata manasa means pranayama. If one is achieved the pranayama, then he is able to concentrate on dharana. Maybe I.
Beautiful. That was the 53rd sutra of the last chapter. So, dharana sucha yogyata manasa. When does the mind become fit for concentration? When one has mastered pranayama. Okay, when one has mastered pranayama, that is when the mind becomes fit for dharana. Dharanasu cha yogyata. When does the mind become yogya? When one perfects pranayama. So you can imagine like a person who's doing a pranayama practice. Just imagine yourself to be doing the pranayama practice for about 15-20 minutes. After you have done the pranayama practice, for a few seconds or maybe for a minute, you will have some kind of state, a mental state, which is kind of not having anything in it, right? It feels like it is empty, right? There's nothing going on there. There's nothing coming into the mind or going out of the mind. Like there's a stillness, there's a calmness that comes into the mind. Did any of you experience that while practicing pranayama? None of you? I'm surprised. Do you
Yes, ma'am.
practice pranayama?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
See, this is a very important practice. Huh? It's not just a theory. It's a very, very important practice. I mean, this is a very important aspect for everyone. When you practice pranayama as per what has been suggested, like you're practicing it for a particular period of time, you're practicing it for these many times. In that practice, you're doing it in a certain way that will actually help your mind to calm down its I can say the wandering thoughts and the vagaries that you have, like different kinds of random thoughts coming into your head. All these things, if you have noticed, become quieter. The mind gets into a state where it is able to get rid of all this clutter. That state, when it becomes deeper and when you're able to stay longer in that state of mind is the mind that is fit for dharana. You're getting it. You're getting it.
Actually, I was trying to correlate, ma'am, yesterday, and yesterday we learned the same concept in Hatha Yoga Pradipika. How chale vate chale chittam, the same. You
Yeah,
fight in the prana.
yes, that's a very beautiful shloka from Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Chale vate chale chittam nischale nischchalam bhavet yogi sthanitvam apnoti tatho vayum nirodayet. Tatha vayum or tatho vayum nirodayet. That's the shloka which says that when one learns to control the breath, the mind automatically gets under control. And vice versa. Okay, when you learn to control your mind, your breath gets into control. And when you learn to control your breath, your mind comes under control. Okay, they both are so related to each other. Now, when you want to work on your mind, the first point is to work on your breathing. Getting it? That's the start point. And when you've mastered the breathing practices, that is when you can say that you have tamed your mind. Like when you ask it to sit, it will sit. When you ask it to stand, it will stand. It will listen to you. It's just like this wild animal which is trained for performing certain feats in the circus. When a wild animal is getting trained, you can't train it in a random way, right? It is not easy and it is not safe. Similarly, the breath is also like that. You can't train it by random mechanisms. So they have researched, they have done a thorough research. All the Hatha Yogic texts talk about that. Even the Patanjali Yogdarshan also talks about that. So breath, the practices to regulate the breath are most important. We have understood that the wrong breathing practices have to be corrected, and then you have to practice it in a certain way, at a certain time, for a certain duration. You have to have certain focus while you're practicing. All these aspects have been discussed in the sutras, right? So once that is mastered, the mind becomes conducive. It becomes like a very fertile ground for the next set of yogic endeavors that you're going to delve into. Okay, so this kind of mind is capable of concentrating on a particular object. Like you want the mind to concentrate on a particular object, like the flame of a lamp. It is ready to concentrate on that. Okay, not a mind which has not undergone the practice of pranayama and pratyahara, because they will not be able to sit still in dharana. Okay, so let's go into the sutra a little bit more detail. Desha bandha chittasya dharana. Now, what is desha? Desha is the place. What is the place? They're talking about certain points in the body. Okay, we can have the object of concentration in the body itself, like the Agna chakra, concentrating on the Agna chakra or the Anahata chakra. Okay, or the Sahasrara chakra, or the Nabhi, Manipura chakra. So you can have those places very well within the confines of the body. Desha bandha is you're binding the mind. So you're binding the mind to that one very place. If you take the Agna chakra as an example, you're binding your mind to that place. Chittasya. What is chittasya? Mind. Dharana. So when you are binding your mind to that one particular place, that aspect of binding it is called as dharana. Now, binding is a word which is a little heavy to understand. It is an easy word, but heavy in the sense that it makes it an effortful activity. It doesn't come very easily. So this, after so much of practice of pranayama and pratyahara, asana, and various other external limbs that we spoke about, still the mind, still the sutra is calling it as bandha. Bandha is binding. Binding is you're still trying to control and bring your mind to that particular point. Getting it? So I have some pictures for you. Let me just see. One second. Where did I place these things? No, not this one. I have to see. This. Yeah. So just look at this picture. When you see water being poured from the jug into the glass, into the beaker, observe the water. The flow of the water actually is not continuous when you look at it with a very keen eye under a microscope. If you look at it with a zoomed lens, you will see that each molecule of the water has its own shape, takes its own form because of the viscosity of the water or the structure of the molecule. It is not continuous. Flow is not continuous. Like when you look at it in a very minute detail, you will find that there are some gaps. Okay, that is why you find water to be moving. So when you see, you're seeing that, right? There's some kind of different
Bubbles
shapes that you can see. Yeah, bubbles here. Yes, there are bubbles here. But even as you look at this flow of water, the molecules have some gaps in them and they're not continuous. It looks like a continuous flow to the person who's looking at it without a keen observation. But for the one who's looking at it in a very minute detail under a zoomed lens, you will see that the molecules have gaps and they are not connected. Okay, Now, why I'm explaining to you about this is dharana is one such aspect which is like this. I mean, you don't have a continuous concentration on that object. There are breaks in between. But it looks as if there's something going on in a flow. And this whole practice, if you think, imagine this to be dharana, this whole practice comes with an effort. Okay. Now, when you become really good in dharana, those gaps no longer, I mean, they reduce. They are there, they're still there, but they reduce quite a bit. The phases of distractions, the phases of wandering of the mind reduces to a large extent, and your mind is able to continuously concentrate on a particular aspect. So you see the flow here because of the viscosity of this liquid honey. You can take it as oil or honey or whatever. The viscosity is much higher than water. So this is compared with dhyana. Okay, the flow is quite continuous and you don't see a lot of gaps between the molecules, which is the state of concentration versus the state of distractions are not too many. You have a continuous flow of concentration without effort. That state is called as dhyana. Okay, and when you look at this picture, in this picture, you see that there is an object from which the honey or oil is being poured into another object, right? There is something from which the oil is being poured onto something else. And there is also the process of the oil falling onto the spoon, right? From the beaker into the spoon. So, why I'm trying to separate these things out is in dhyana, the person is aware of his meditation practice. So he's aware that he's sitting as a person. I am meditating. I means Usha is meditating. I'm meditating. I know that I'm meditating. And I'm in a state of deep meditation on a particular object. I'm very well aware about all that. So that awareness is intact in a person who is practicing dhyana. Now, for a person who has transcended from dhyana and has gone into samadhi, that aspect of I'm the one who's practicing it, I'm the one, this is the process that I'm getting involved with, this is the technique that I'm using, and I'm in a perfect stillness at the moment. These three aspects are all gone. He doesn't have the awareness, that cognizance is lost. He doesn't have that asmita, that I'm the one who's meditating, I'm using this technique to meditate, I'm in perfect stillness. Those three aspects are gone. The grahitru grahana grahyeshu, these three aspects are gone. He's only confined to the object. He's not confined to the process of meditation or the meditator himself. He's only confined to the object of meditation. He's so engrossed in the object that he's not cognizant of anything else around him. That deep state is called as samadhi. Okay, now here you understood, right? The yogi is able to understand that he is the one who's sitting for meditation, he's the one who's following a particular technique, and then he's able to get into that stillness. That awareness is there. Here, that sense of awareness is gone. He's only in the object. His world is the object. There's nothing else for him. Getting it? That is the state of samadhi. Now here also there are, we have seen that there are differences. Now there is not a strict line between dharana, dhyana and samadhi. So one flows into the other. You getting it? One limb flows into the other. There is no clear demarcation. Getting it? So let me go back. Is this aspect clear to all of you?
Ma'am, I just missed what about dharana, ma'am? In dhyana,
Dharana, I told you,
samadhi.
right? Dharana is this aspect. This is nothing but dharana, where there are gaps. So you are able
Yeah,
to
that
sit
I
in.
missed, ma'am.
Hmm.
Gaps thing I missed, ma'am.
Yeah.
Right.
For dhyana, it's a continuous flow. But in dhyana, what is the important aspect is you're able to know that you are meditating, you're able to know that you're using this process, you're able to know that you're sitting for this long. All those aspects you're very aware of. That awareness itself makes it dhyana, but the effort is zero. You're not putting a lot of effort to get into the state. This is a flow state. Okay, it's continuous. And here, see, there's no object here, right? There's no object here also. That is lost. Everything is lost. You're only immersed in the object, which is the oil or the honey, right? So the beaker from which the oil is being poured into the beaker into which it is being poured, those aspects, I'm just taking those as examples, but those aspects are lost. I'm not knowing from where it is coming, where it is going. I'm the one who's doing it. I'm the one who's pouring it from this to this. All those aspects are gone. The only thing I am able to sit with is the object. That is all in my head. There's nothing else. That is called as samadhi. Okay, so when why I took this is, now this is an example of states which are probably before dharana. Okay, the mind gets into different states where it is wandering, where it is fluctuating from what it is supposed to do. So those are the states which might eventually lead to the stillness. Okay, this, when you see the flame flickering, sometimes, just sometimes, then it might be the state of dharana. When it is perfectly still, it is dhyana. Now for this, if you want to think of samadhi, there's nothing else existing here. There's only the flame. Okay, that is samadhi. Now let's go into the book and see what it says. So, Desha Bandha Chittasya Dharana, when one is able to bind the mind to a particular point, that aspect is called as Dharana. Clear? The points of Dharana, the places of Dharana can be any of the chakras. Okay, any of the chakras, the 7 chakras that you have learned. Okay, those are the objects, the points in which you can bind your mind. Clear this? That is all is said. When one is able to focus on a particular object for some time with some effort, that is called as dharana. When one is able to concentrate on a particular object for some time, it is called as dharana. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions on this?
Not really, ma'am. Understood the concept.
Okay, that's why I gave you a lot of background, so that the understanding the sutra becomes a little easy. Otherwise, you'll struggle while I'm explaining the sutra itself, like what is desha, why is dharana like this. These things will become difficult for you to understand. That's why I took some time to explain you the background. Clear now?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So now I would like to go into the next sutra, which is dhyana. So dhyana tatra pratyaikanata dhyanam. Tatra pratyaikanata dhyanam means what? Tatra means that. What is that? So that, when we look at the dharana aspect, the object that you were concentrating on, okay, that pratyaya means the kind of content of the consciousness. Okay, so the content of the consciousness, we can imagine that as a continuous flow, a single cognition, like that of the heavier liquid that we have seen, like honey or the oil, where the viscosity of the liquid was more and we were able to see a continuous flow of it, unlike the water flowing from one beaker to another beaker. So this continuous flow is called as pratyaikatanata. Okay, that continuity, that continuous flow of a single cognition arising in the head is called as pratyaikatanata. That is the term that is used for describing this is called as dhyana. So how do you understand this as a sutra is, the object that was picked in dharana, when there is a continuous flow of that kind of cognition related to the object, that flow of cognition, a single flow of that cognition is called as dhyana. Okay. Now, as I told you, the aspect of dharana and dhyana especially, you have to remember that the awareness plays a key role. Here, the person who's meditating is very well aware that he's the one who's meditating and he's meditating on that object using a particular technique in a particular way. So that is called as dhyana. Okay, so advanced stages of dharana, which is the concentration with effort, the advanced stages of dharana leads into dhyana automatically. So when one has mastered dharana, automatically they'll be able to get into a state of dhyana. Clear with this?
Yes, ma'am.
So dhyana would be established when the mind is kind of fixed on an object of concentration for a prolonged time with little or no effort. So that is what is dhyana. Remember that practically when one is able to establish the mind on a particular object for a long time. That long time is the differentiating factor. In dharana, the duration is less. But in dhyana, it is for prolonged periods. And there is no effort. It is becoming effortless, like the mind is not willing to wander. Can you imagine the state of mind when it doesn't want to think about anything else, it is only thinking about one particular aspect, and even when it tries to get distracted also, again the thought is being pulled in and you're only thinking about that one particular aspect. So for a long time, when one thinks about a particular object, when one contemplates or dwells on a particular aspect, that is called as dhyana. Okay, the mind does not like to wander. It is happy thinking about that one very aspect. When the mind is getting into that state, that is called as dhyana. Clear? Should I move ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
So the point that you need to understand is the mind becomes the practice becomes so effortless that the mind is being pulled towards the object without any effort. So they are naturally liking the process of meditation. There's no force, there's no, I mean, we are not trying to put ourselves to meditation practice. Automatically, the mind is liking that process and it is involving deeply in that process. That is dhyana. Dharana, we have to kind of put some effort to control the mind. Maybe here and there are distractions and we bring the mind back. But in dhyana, the effort is very less, or I can say no, there's no effort. The mind automatically comes to the object of meditation because of the liking towards the object or whatever. So that is the aspect of dhyana. Now, what is it about samadhi? Samadhi, the sutra is Tadeva Artha. Tadeva is So the object of dhyana, so the object is continuing. Are you seeing it? So the object that was used for dharana is continuing in dhyana and now is continuing in samadhi. They have not changed the object. The object is the same. That remains the same. Tadeva arthamatra nirbhasam. So that only that particular object, remains. Okay, which is tad is that eva is only arthamatra nirbhasam. Arthamatra nirbhasam is the only the meaning of it remains, nothing else, expressive of just its meaning. Okay, arthamatra. Swarupa shunya. Swarupa shunya is which is devoid of its own features, devoid of its own defining features. Eva is as if. Okay, samadhi. Samadhi is a state of mind. Which state of mind? Which is completely established in that object. Okay, so the advanced stages of dhyana. In the advanced stages of dhyana, one is able to experience that stillness. And in that stillness, what is one able to experience? He's able to experience only that object, nothing else. There is nothing else which is in the head. Okay, so in dhyana, one is aware of the process, the practice, the person who is meditating, and the object on which the person is meditating. But in samadhi, this is a differentiating factor. The person is not aware. The asmita is all gone. Okay, that is what is being said in the commentary. Here, the person loses the awareness of what? That I am the meditator. This is the process I'm using for meditation, and this is the object on which I'm meditating. So all these aspects are gone. Only the object remains in the consciousness. Getting it? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now,
Ma'am, can we do it tomorrow, ma'am? It's 10:10.
okay, it's already time. Yeah. So we'll stop it here. I hope you were able to understand, because this is again an important topic from the examination point of view. These questions are very regularly asked. The questions related to the dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, difference between the dharana, dhyana, and samadhi aspects. These are very important. Okay. So I'll stop the recording here.